Welcome everybody to the Study Law online info session. My name is Cody Lower. I'll be your MC this evening and I'm from our Future Students team here at UniSC. I am on our Sunshine Coast campus and today I'm joined by a couple of special colleagues. We have Dr. Dale Mitchell, who is our program coordinator in the School of Law and Society. We have Emma Bryan, who's actually a fourth year law and criminal and justice studies student. As well as we have some Q&A support team members, Sebastian Marks, who will be helping out and answering all your questions live this evening. This afternoon, we'll go over, a couple of the programs we have available to you, our support services, as well as jumping into a panel discussion and answering all your questions live. If you do have any questions right now and thinking about wanting to get them answered straight away, feel free to jump into our Q&A chat bar. It might be at the top or bottom of your screen, depending on the device you're on. And you can start throwing those questions in there straight away. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live and recognize their continuing connection to land, water, and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. So for some of you, you may be new here to UniSC. And we just want to give you a little bit of overview about the university, along with all our amazing law offerings. So our campus is actually what we call a multi-campus institution. We have a campus up in Fraser Coast, Hervey Bay, Gympie, Sunshine Coast, Caboolture, and Moreton Bay. For some of you who may be looking at our law programs, they are available online or on campus, or maybe you're someone who wants to do the combination between the two and have that ultimate flexibility. If you are looking at studying on any of our campuses, Sunshine Coast campus and Moreton Bay campus will be your best options. These are our full service campuses where you can have not just a great study experience, but also a great social life and community experience as well. We have a range of amazing support services and we'll dive into more of these in our panel discussion a little bit later on. Some of these may include academic and study support, careers and employment, health and well-being, financial support and scholarships, student groups and partnership opportunities, counseling, disability, and equity. We are ranked with 5 stars when it comes to our student support, as well as teaching quality. A support service I would like to highlight, and it's one of my favorite teams that exist at UniSC, is our careers and employment team. This is a fantastic team that will help you along your journey, where it would be at the beginning and you're not knowing exactly where you're wanting to go. We have a team of careers counselors that will help you decide what sort of program would be your best option, but also understanding a little bit more about yourself and maybe the direction you want to go. But that team as well will help you at the end of your study journey when you are looking for some of those amazing grad opportunities that are available. Don't forget, our School of Law and Society are there to help you as well along the way. Talking about financial support, we have a range of amazing scholarships available to you. More than 90% of our scholarships have an equity focus in mind. This means they're not just designed for the smartest person in the room. So if you are someone who is seeking out a scholarship, please apply. It's a single application and it will automatically put you into all the scholarships that are available to you. We have 2 intakes a year. It's a single application, as mentioned, and it'll automatically put you into those buckets. And what I do recommend is applying every time they open. As mentioned, we have 2 intakes a year. In fact, we're reviewing applications last year, and there was a range of scholarships that weren't used due to certain bucket of students not applying, but did exist across our student cohorts. So please apply. It will be the best money ever returned for 20 minutes spent. All right, time to jump into our law program. As we are joined by Dr. Dale Mitchell, program coordinator of our School of Law and Society, I'd love for you to go over our program offerings and maybe some of the secret stuff that you know about our courses. Over to you.
Thanks, Cody. I'll try and give away all the secrets. Firstly, thank you all so much for joining us late on a Tuesday evening. Look, we offer a valuable suite of programs. And of course, when we talk about law, we are obviously, as the slide says, pretty well regarded for our student support in terms of as a university. But as a law degree and a law program in and of itself, we're accredited to be eligible to lead you to your admission as a lawyer once you obviously complete our program. And hopefully, if you choose to engage with us, what you'll find is that we're a very tight-knit, close community who, when you choose to study at UniSC, you actually, connect with and get to know the experts in the field your lecturers, as well as connecting with our great community of students too. Let me just start by talking about our Bachelor of Laws. And some of you may have heard, we recently we put forward our 3-year program offering. Previously was 4 years for our single degree. Now it is 3. This is available at Sunshine Coast campus, our Moreton Bay campus, as well as online, with 2 intakes a year in February and, of course, coming up in July. Now, Bachelor of Laws, of course, is a professional program. When you study law, you learn how to be a lawyer, how to think like a lawyer, how to engage in legal problems, how to prepare legal advice. We very much are a careers focus, authentic learning practical university in that way, particularly when it comes to our law program, building upon those skills in our legal facilities like our moot court, our venues across our campus footprint. And you're being taught by folks who are experienced in the field of law, many who have practiced for decades, and who are bringing that knowledge into the classroom. You also have opportunities to connect with the profession more generally. We have community legal practice, which is one of our required courses, where you'll get the opportunity to be supported in providing legal advice within the community on a pro bono basis through the community legal clinics, which we support as a university at the Sunshine Coast, as well as down in Pine Rivers, in Petrie in the Moreton Bay area. So you get the opportunity to actually connect and practice the law, as well as internship programs, which we also offer as part of our study, where you get opportunities to embed yourself within law firms, as well as potentially working within government departments or within the judiciary as well. Lots of awesome opportunities for that work integrated learning. So very authentic in that sense, in how we teach law and how we ground it. And that's reflected as well within the extended minors, which are connected in with as part of our Bachelor of Laws in advocacy and litigation, giving you those tools to be able to advocate for someone else, to be able to navigate the legal processes of court, as well as civil obligations, which was another one of our extended minors, which we also kind of we played with calling it barbecue law, because it's actually about the key civil claims, which are very popular and very out there in our legal profession. Think about family law, think about commercial law, these areas where there's a lot of work. Or you can actually forge your own path through our specialized option of a specialized legal extended minor. We get to kind of choose your own adventure, drawing upon our suite of electives to craft your own extended minor. That's it for law. But if we look at, sorry, if we look at criminology and justice, that's another one of our popular programs within the School of Law and Society. And this, of course, trains you in terms of understanding the way in which crime operates and how to prevent it. We have an incredible array of experts. And just like with law, this is a 3-year program offered in semester 1 starting in February and semester 2 starting in July very soon. Again, across that same campus footprint at Sunshine Coast, Moreton Bay, and online. Now, criminology and justice is really about understanding the way that these different legal institutions operate and how we can prevent crime, understanding how crime occurs, how we can stop it, and being able to research crime-related issues and develop, measures and ways of responding and preventing them. We have, again, a suite of specialists in this area, and I mean, you only need to do a Google of the Sexual Violence Research Prevention Unit here at the University of the Sunshine Coast to understand some of the meaningful work that our criminology team is doing to prevent crime within our community, partnering with government departments as well as with the police force itself to better understand how we can better police crime and protect our communities. You also have, of course, opportunities to complete professional placements here in this program as well as part of your final year. Again, what you'll find across our suite of courses here at UniSC, not to sound like I'm marketing too much, It's very authentic, real learning about how you actually take the skills that we teach you and put them into action. Of course, if you have difficulty choosing between a Bachelor of Laws and a Bachelor of Criminology and Justice, why not do both? And we have an array of different double degrees which are available, which you can see there on your screen. Law is a professional degree, as I mentioned, and it's been seen more and more as a generalist degree because having a law degree does mean people make certain assumptions about your own knowledge and your own capacities, and people have drawn upon that to be able to create fantastic careers with a law degree and practicing as a lawyer, but also drawing upon a second skill set which they develop and flesh out more through another degree, whether that's in accounting, whether that's in business, whether that's understanding the nature of history and the arts. So yes, that connection between law and criminology and justice is certainly a very popular one in terms of how those things are firing together.
Thanks, Dale. As you can see, we have a range of, I guess, double degrees. I know. I think a lot of people are reminded that law exists in every single industry. I know in my past life, I used to work in property development, and I spent most of my time working with our law and contracts team before contracts were going out on zoning and land leasing and anything like that. So I know they exist behind the scenes in every single HR department, in business departments, in health departments. They are definitely I guess, a diverse environment, industry and environments that a lot of these students can work in. So just before jumping into pathways to Uni SC, I just want to remind you guys to jump into the Q&A tab instead of the chat tab and start throwing in your questions. We're going to move into our panel discussion very soon. There's a lot of great questions coming through already, and we'd love to jump into those in our panel discussion or answer them now. So jump into the Q&A tab, start throwing in your questions. There's no silly questions, and we'll be able to answer them live. So pathways to Uni SC. Some of you may be already on that journey where you have already applied or kind of looking at your options. So some of the options available to you starting from July is ATAR. So obviously, if you are someone who has finished school or is currently in year 12, ATAR is a great way to gain entry across our law programs. If you are currently in year 12, we also have the early offer guarantee, and we can jump into that a little bit later. We do have Emma here who actually came through our EOG program. Tertiary preparation pathway is also a fantastic pathway to gain skills in a fee-free 6-month bridging program where you'll ramp up all your skills in academic writing, literacy and numeracy support, as well as referencing support, as well as a wealth of understanding of Uni SC systems and processes. You get one whole semester dedicated to, I guess, how to learn and how to upskill. And then when you jump over into your Bachelor's of Laws through getting the correct ranking score that you need and passing the TPP program, you can then just focus on the content itself. And it's very much proven over the last 5 to 10 years that any student who goes through the TPP program is predicted to get a higher grade point average than most other students, but also has a higher chance of completion. And I can only really account for that really first semester when you move from TPP onto your bachelor's level of study. You're going to be sitting in a room with, no matter how smart everyone is, but you're going to be focused on the content that's in front of you because you already know how to find the information. Where a lot of other students are going to be quite new to this environment, looking at the Blackboard sites, looking at the online learning, and really working out what is the best way to learn in this new learning environment. We also have a wealth of diploma studies, as well as if you've done a Cert 3, Cert 4, or a diploma at TAFE or any fellow RTO here in Australia, as long as it's an AQF qualified course, you can actually use the selection rank to gain entry into a range of our programs. We have Access Uni SC schemes, as well as an Indigenous Direct Entry and Access scheme, which is also called IDEAS. We love acronyms here at the university. If you are wanting to know more information about those pathways to Uni SC, such as Access and IDEAS, jump on our website, dive into them. They may be applicable to you. So how do I apply for Uni SC? If you are a domestic student or an Australian student and you are looking to study with us in semester 2, or what we call study period 2, search our study guide or visit usc.edu.au to find the degree that you want, where it'd be laws or criminal and justice studies, or maybe the combination of the both. Check the entry requirements and then apply online at QTAC. Speaking of QTAC, because you have joined this information session tonight, you actually get a free QTAC voucher. This is at a value of $114 that you now don't have to pay for. Feel free to scan the QR code and complete the QTAC registration form to receive a voucher. Alternatively, we'll be sending you an email tomorrow for attending this evening with an application form to receive a free QTAC voucher. So keep that in mind. If you haven't made your application just yet, make sure you use that voucher. This is only available if you are looking at studying in July this year. So when do you need to apply? My best method is always apply as soon as possible, because the sooner you get in, the more flexibility and the more opportunities you have at choosing a timetable that suits you best. But however, if you do get in right before intake and you're making a decision at the very end, last weeks of July, you do have until the 10th of July for final application rounds. Just a reminder though, July 14th is our first day of study period 2. Onto the expert panel discussion. Emma, would you be able to jump online and join us? Now, Dale, you've already introduced yourself, but feel free to do so again if you would like. But first I'll get Emma, if you'd just like to introduce yourself, maybe a little bit about your background, your history with UniSC, and I guess where you're up to in your study journey.
Hi everyone, my name's Emma. I am doing a dual degree Bachelor of Laws and Bachelor of Criminology and Justice. I'm in my 4th year out of 5 years, and how I got into UniSC was through that early offer guarantee program.
Fantastic. Now, I think this is a question to both of you, and I'm sure you'll have both different experience in this. What made you choose your area of law or criminology and studies? In terms of Dale, for yourself, obviously you're in a very specific field, but Emma, so are you, if I could get some feedback.
Yeah, I guess that for me, the reason why I first chose law was because I was kind of curious about the way that government worked. I was curious about the way that these things that I was watching on TV, how the mechanisms were actually operating. And to be able to understand the way that government works and the way that rights work in society, you need to have a law degree. It really allows you to be able to then leverage and use those tools in a meaningful way to help people. And I think that's kind of at the heart of what we try and do. And that's certainly how we think about law here at UniSC.
For me, I really enjoyed legal studies in high school, so I kind of looked at careers in that area, and I saw the Bachelor of Laws, and I was really interested in the legislation and how the law functioned and affects the everyday person. And I saw the dual degrees and I thought, well, may as well, it only adds an extra year. So I saw criminology and I thought, well, that would be a really good to join with law because it gives that more social aspect to the legislation.
And I think a big part, and I'm a past business student, and I really enjoyed like the hands-on work experience. I know for me, I was able to do a certain amount of hours and it counted towards courses, which I'm a very practical learner. So I liked being in the work environment, that counting towards my study. I did have some assessments with it, but it was so much better being in the workplace versus in the classroom. Other university experiences like work integrated learning that exist, what experiences do these look like? Dale, I'll go to you, but Emma, I'd like to learn about maybe some of your hands-on learning experiences you're trying to go for in your course.
I guess the thing to remember is that there's two things to kind of separate here. So there's the actual experiences, as I mentioned, like internship, which is an elective which is on offer, which is 1 day per week over a semester, where you go and you get that experience working within a law firm or in some kind of legal space. Sometimes it might be a government department. Sometimes it might be, as I say, shadowing a magistrate. It could be those kind of opportunities. As we know, in law, the opportunities are so diverse. It's one of the reasons why people choose these degrees. But the other thing is that what we've tried to do, certainly within law, and particularly within our renewed and revitalized law program, which we've just rolled out, and you'll see it if you look at any of our courses, we have really authentic assessment. We're genuinely building up, Emma's just recently submitted some Kraken outline of arguments in civil procedure for me. You know, we've been drafting claims and statement of claims, the actual processes where you serve someone to start a trial. It's not all essays. It's certainly not the kind of performative nonsense which you sometimes have within degrees. We're really practical and driven about creating an authentic learning experience, as trite as that might sound. So it means actually pretending, sometimes simulating legal experiences, simulating trials, and being able to engage in those mock trial moots and those kind of operations, as well as, of course, those community legal opportunities, as I mentioned, being able to do pro bono work in the community so you can see what happens when the rubber hits the road. Because again, this is not just, you know, learning how to read a book. This is learning how to think and act and be a lawyer. That's what's part of our practice anyway in the law program.
So pretty much the more you experience, the more you do it, even in a moot example, the better and naturally it feels, and the more proficient you become, which
absolutely
makes complete sense. Now, I'll go over to you, Emma, in a sec, but Dale, just quickly, when it comes to those, 1 day a week experiences for a semester, does the university support you in terms of organizing these? Is this something you have to seek out yourself? How does this kind of work?
Oh, it's totally organized by the university. And I think this is one of the great things with the program, because I certainly know that other institutions do not provide that kind of support. And one of the most enriching things that I have as a teacher is when you've had that opportunity of being able to train someone, you give them those authentic experiences, and then you let them loose on the world in these work integrated learning experiences. And then you hear from the firms, you hear from the profession, you hear from the magistrate going, wow, this is a cracker of a student. They know their stuff. They're a great writer. Well done, right? And that's part of the rewarding part of, I guess, the job that we get to do.
That's great. That's really good. That's really good to hear about how that support is available to you. Because I guess for a lot of students, like you're probably sitting there at the start of your study journey going, well, how do I organize like work experience, and how does it, like, where do I begin? I don't even know what area I like at this point in time. So that's good that there's a range of support, as well as areas that people might want to experiment with in an area that they thought, you know what, I don't know if I like this area, but instead of working there, I can just go there 1 day a week and trial it through my uni degree before waiting till I graduate and signing up for a job if that job comes arise. Now, Emma, over to you. Have you had any sort of moot or working experiences? And as well as, I understand that you have a passion for research as well. What is that going to kind of look like in your study journey?
So far in my degree, I've done a lot of mock trials. So we've got the moot court here at UniSC Sippy Downs campus. And in a few of my classes, I've pretended to be a lawyer and actually speak up in front of my class and to my lecturer. And as intimidating as it was, it did give me that real life experience before going into a court, which was really good, whether that was using a script or going unscripted. I recently finished an elective which was advocacy. And that was really good for me to actually pick up those skills of speaking without a script and actually knowing my client's case. So I found that really helpful. As Dale mentioned, it's not just essay writing, but actually client advice, for example, or those claims and statements of claims. So when you go into the workforce, you're not just blindsided going into that. So I found that really helpful. I am interested in research, and UniSC is really good at balancing that research element and that practical aspect as well, I find. So you can choose electives surrounded by your strengths or what you'd like to do. For me, I've picked up a research course for next semester, so that's really good for me to pursue. It's like a mini honors, so I get to see if I enjoy research, enjoy honors, and then hopefully next year for me going into honors, I would like to do that. So there's lots of opportunities if you want to go more into the research side or choosing electives around career pathways you'd like to do as well.
My favorite part of that is that it sounds like you have a lot of flexibility. You don't have to make a decision on your very first day of your very first year of your bachelor's degree. You know, there's a lot of opportunities to change the direction you want to go through these experiences, especially across the range of, I guess, different courses you get to do a part of the program to kind of set your direction. By the time you get to the end, you're kind of well set because you've been able to make decisions along the way. So that sounds really awesome. And research sounds like a really great space to be in. as well as a wealth of different, I guess, like career opportunities as well outside the traditional norms that most people might assume someone who studies law goes on to. So that's really cool. We're going to throw out to some of the questions to the audience that are, I think, right on cue, Emma, to what you were just talking about, doing specialties or little areas of focus. Dale, we have a few inquiries around, can I study property law, or can I get a major in property, or can I study family law? How do people, I guess, these prospective students get recognized to go into these certain industries? Is this built into the degree as a generalized subject, and then you go into the workforce and that's how you get that recognition? Or is this built in the program where you can get recognized anyway and you can use that to gain employment?
Yeah, I mean, look, every law degree provides opportunities for you to do electives. And one of the great things here at UniSC, not to hamper on too much about how great we are, but my colleagues, many of them are active lawyers who are working out there in the community. And when it comes to family law, for example, we have a great elective, Law 419, family law. You can Google it, you can look it up. It's delivered by Kirsty Mackey, who is a practicing lawyer and also one of my colleagues who's employed here at the University of the Sunshine Coast, and who has been practicing in this area for I don't want to date her too long, but a long period of time. She's an extensive expert. She's an elder of the field, and knows how these areas work. Now, the thing is, with any of these subject areas, law moves. Law is not static. Law moves. It's like the tides. It moves and it erodes the shore. But the thing is that you need to have educators, you need to have programs which are actively in touch with how things are operating now. And that's one of the great things which we see constantly throughout our program when we're bringing in experts to teach things like compensation law, who are actively working out there in our community. When we bring in experts in employment law who have decades of experience, or as I mentioned, Kirsty, who's actively working within that family law space as well as connecting through to us here. So, I don't think you necessarily have to think about, okay, I'm going to specialize in XYZ in my law degree, and that's what it's all going to be about. We have to be very careful because in law, it is, and Emma, we've had these discussions before surrounding this, I think, the way in which law works is that you sit down there at a table and someone comes in and says, here's my problem. And they will explain to you a long story, and it will never just be one thing. That client might think that it's a family law issue, but it might be a contract law issue. That person may think that it's a property law issue, but it's actually a criminal issue. Law and life, as we know, has many different shades. So one of the important things in law is that you are required to have this broad areas of knowledge, and they're reflected in our core courses. They're also called the Priestley 11. You'll see them often advertised, because they're required for accreditation purposes. But the electives provide you to touch on those cornerstones, which are those passion areas. And please don't think, oh no, I don't have access to XYZ elective, therefore I can never work in that space. Obviously, when you leave a degree, as with any, you get opportunities to work within different firms, and they will train you. You learn the basics, and that allows you to hopefully navigate the ocean of ever-changing waves of law.
So it's about encompassing, I guess, all those core skills and your obviously your law degree and being professionally qualified, and then embarking in those work experiences and harnessing all those key skills from contract law. If you have a passion for property, doing some of those units if they're available. If it's family, doing some of those units are available and gaining greater scope. But also, as you mentioned, when you're in the industry, learning along the way. It doesn't stop, obviously. And as we know, every single year with government changes and stuff, there's a lot of new legislations that come out quite regularly, especially in the property sector and the finance sector as well, let alone the family and domestic violence sector. So it's an ever evolving program from what I can tell.
Yes.
So I guess a great question that's coming through is around studying online or studying on campus and around that flexibility. What are the on-campus requirements for an online degree? But also, I guess for Emma, you are a current student at the Sunshine Coast campus. I believe you're studying your whole program face-to-face. how many days are you on campus? So I'll go over to you, Dale, first, but then Emma next. Thanks.
Sure, let's touch on if you chose to study online, okay? So there are some mandatory contact points, that's what we call them, throughout your studies. And those are moments when you need to attend on campus. Now, I need to say the obvious thing in the world. Online is great. Like we're currently experiencing online. That's wacky doodle, that's amazing. But there are some things when we know it is easier to teach you and easier to communicate and easier to assess you in a face-to-face physical environment, because even though Zoom is fantastic, it will not give you that same experience, as Emma's just said, of presenting within a courtroom and owning that space. And that's really a significant skill, which we would be failing in ourselves as academics, as a law school, if we didn't teach you that skill. So what you'll see is when you look at the online offering and you go to our law program page, there are moments of mandatory contact point, and they're very limited throughout our degree. There are about 5, 6, 7-ish, and these are often 1-day experiences. We have many of them in the first year within our orientation week, when you get to meet your colleagues, you get to kind of be, it says on the label, orientated into law and to this profession, because you get to connect with one another and make friends, which, when we know online study can often be an isolating experience. And obviously, then throughout the rest of the degree, we have online tutorials, which are available through the university, 10 or so, depending on the subject, for 2 hours a pop each week for a semester. So, there's plenty of opportunities there to engage online, as well as obviously on campus too at those moments.
And just confirming, Dale, those online collaborates, which is what I always used to call them, they're recorded as well, aren't they? So you can watch them at a time that suits you, or is the online collaborate session different from a lecture where it is recorded? Is it something that you have to attend online, even though it's in an online capacity?
It is something that you will need to attend online. We have some limitations within our school upon what we can record, and a lot of that's based on the kind of subjects that we deal with. Particularly think about the criminological space. When we have these conversations, we want them to be spaces where you can be honest. And even though, say, for example, you're not able to attend that tutorial, you are always welcome to connect with us as academics. We do provide resources after these tutorials. We do release slides. We do have answer packets, which we do provide. So I don't think don't feel like, say, for example, I can't make that time, therefore I'm out in the ocean alone. Certainly, one of the things that sets us apart, I think, from many of our competitors, is that you will see me online, in person. If you're on campus, you will see us around, and I think that's part of what makes us a healthy community.
Thanks, Dale. So Emma, obviously we're talking about flexibility and studying, and you now have 4 years of experiences of studying. Now, I think you relocated from Townsville, so you're probably balancing a lot between work, living out of home, the new environment, which is now not a new environment. You're 4 years in. Some would say you're almost a veteran when it comes to studying at university. How many days are you on campus? What does a week look like for you?
So for me, doing the dual degree, I'm only expected to go on campus 8 hours in total. And for me, that changes depending on how work goes or family commitments. So the uni is really good because they give you a few times to choose from, and they're maximum 2 hours. So I'm a full-time student who does 4 courses. So that's 8 hours in total where I go to tutorials. For criminology and law, they've moved away from the in-person lectures, and it's now online and recorded. So that's really helpful for me. Every Sunday, I just kind of do a binge watch of all the lecture content, take my notes, and then attend tutorials for that week. So for me, I'm a full-time student doing that, choosing my times, and then the rest of the days, I've got my weekends free as well. So I work 2 casual jobs that kind of make up part-time hours, essentially. So it's really flexible. And the transition from high school to uni, I found the work was more difficult, but the workload was easier, if that makes sense. So in terms of working and living out of home, paying rent, I wasn't as stressed out because I now had the rest of my week free.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm sure every student kind of takes a different example. I know for me, I used to, maybe quite similar to stuff, I used to jam all my subjects together. And then I used to have a dedicated non-work day, as in no part-time job or classes. And that was my assignment day. It was like a go at 6 a.m. and commit to my assessments before I move into my, I guess, my part-time job week. And that's what I had to do. I had to separate my days out. But then I know heaps of other students who only want to do one subject per day, and they'll study that subject. They'll maybe pick a morning class, and then if that's what's available, part of the timetabling, and then they will work on that, I guess the content and the readings and the assessments for the rest of the day on that one class. And everyone has a different flow, and it's really great that there is that flexibility, especially with the law program, is that you can actually choose to be on campus. And if that subject, because it is an online program as well, you can actually choose an online subject. So you can do a combination of both. You might pick 2 subjects on campus, and that third subject that was available on campus might not suit you, but the online capacity time suits you well. So you can use that hybrid model, which is quite unique. Not a lot of our programs do offer that amount of flexibility, but the law one does, in fact, especially the new 3-year law program, which is really cool. And this is a great conversation around double degrees and I guess the perception of a double degree. What does that workload look like compared to a single degree? I think some people may assume you're doing double the amount of subjects over a single semester. And in terms of, but also subjects wise, like, if you put 2 3-year degrees together, is that 6 years? What does that look like? Dale, would you be able to explain, I guess, a combined degree a little bit better?
Yeah, so firstly, you're not going to be doing more subjects per semester. Let's cut that short. You're engaging in a marathon rather than a sprint. Okay, so you're engaging, as Emma said, with most of the programs as we've advertised and we've spoken about today, would be a 5-year double degree, and that's completing a full-time load of four courses per semester over that 5 years. So you're not working harder per semester, if that makes sense. You're just doing it for a longer period. That's how you get to that double degree. And one of the, I guess, the benefits, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to law, right, we're a highly accredited program, and for good reason, right? You don't want just wackadoodle dandies who've gotten some random degree suddenly providing legal advice. That's very dangerous. We're a highly accredited area, just like medicine or dentistry or accounting, right? They're highly accredited areas. And the downside of that is that you have to learn about a wide array of different legal topics. Even if you come into this program and you're like, you know what, I really care about criminal law, or I really care about family law, or I really care about, God help you, constitutional law. You have to learn about all these different areas because, as I said, a client's going to come in and you need to be able to identify that legal issue. And it's rarely going to be what that client thinks or what ChatGPT tells you. It's going to be something more nuanced. So you have to have that wide array of knowledge. And one of the downsides of that is that you have to learn all these different areas, and sometimes they're not your passion project. And you have to suffer through contract law with me. But you will get there and you will learn something hopefully along the way and pick up some legal skills. But one of the great things about a double degree is you often do have that passion for history, or that passion for sociology, or that passion for criminology, right? Which can help get you through what can be more, harder times within an accredited program like law, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it sounds like you get a range of electives. So therefore, a 3-year degree and a 3-year degree, which would be separately, when they come together and they do have some overlap, can get done approximately in 5 years instead of 6. But getting recognized for 2 things, especially in an industry that you're passionate about or a field that you want to spend more time in, where it be business or criminology or history, or there's a range of different options that are obviously available. Not to say that you have to do a double degree, but it does give you an opportunity to be recognized for 2 sets of skills, or a deeper knowledge in those 2 sets of skills. Now, we've only got 10 minutes left, and we are getting still a lot of questions. And a really key one is talking about graduating. How does UniSC help our graduates find employment? And what does this look like? And Dale, I think Emma's still got a little bit more study to go, but is probably still thinking about this. But Dale, what sort of advice can you pass on what UniSC does to prepare our students? Including, can you provide some knowledge around the PLT? Is that external, internal? What does that look like?
So the firstly, we do have a careers team here at UniSC, which do support you in terms of the the process of seeking a job. And of course, when we think about the processes of seeking employment now, if you're looking within the public sector, that's very different. If you're going to government, than if you're going into the private sector, and understanding those nuances is really important. One of the great things that we have at UniSC is that we have a really active student culture. We have a great law student association who's won lots of awards for their amazing social parties and law balls, as well as great events when it comes to careers and their connections with the local profession. Because we have so much of our profession locally who support what we do as a law school. So we have those connections there to kind of support you get those career opportunities, get that foot in the door, and actually understanding how a profession works, which can be really challenging, particularly if you're the first in your family to go to university, let alone the first in your family to study law, right? It can be really difficult when you think about those professions. So we're always here to help in that respect, and we have a good community to support that. When it comes to your practical legal training, some of you will have heard PLT maybe for the first time just 5 seconds ago. Let me tell you what it is. Okay, when you complete your law degree, if your goal is to become a lawyer, you have to be admitted by the Supreme Court. In most cases, if you're listening in and you're residing within Queensland, that will be the Supreme Court of Queensland. So you'll be seeking admission there. To get admitted as a lawyer, you have to, first step, complete an accredited law program. That would be our Bachelor of Laws degree, right? Whether that's a single degree or whether that's part of a double, you're completing that. But once you complete that law degree, you then have to complete something called practical legal training, PLT. Now, we don't offer that at UniSC. There are very few providers in the country, but it's basically a 6-month short qualification, how to fill out forms, to be quite honest. And once you complete that, then you can go and be admitted. And we have plenty of partners who we work with in that space. The College of Law is one of them. Leo Cusson is another. There are opportunities to engage with those folks as we move throughout the program. And we, as a law school, prepare you very much to be able to actually engage within that process. Many of our students find practical legal training very easy because guess what? We provide you with practical legal skills throughout your degree.
Thanks, Dale. And just a quick one. Why was the 4-year law degree dropped down to 3 years? Is there a difference in quality?
Absolutely not a difference in quality. 110% not. I actually think the 3-year program is probably more effective. Look, one of the things that we always realize is that students are changing. You know, Emma was just talking about the amount of work that she has to go through, you know, in this challenging economic environment. You know, we know that our students more and more want to get out the door quicker. And that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to meet those needs and also the needs of surprisingly and incredibly continuously growing profession who wants more lawyers out there, particularly on the Sunshine Coast as well as here at Moreton Bay, to support those firms. That's what we've tried to do and tried to cater to those needs. And obviously, we've also started to offer online as well. So there's not a reduction of quality. We certainly don't do that. Indeed, when we sat down and we started redesigning our program to be 3 years, we placed authenticity and practicality and actual skills building at its core. So we've been able to do, I think, something really unique in the sector in terms of our 3-year law program in that way.
Thanks, Dale. And this is a great one because we are talking about studying in study period 2. You know, don't wait till February next year when you can get started now and jump ahead. Is there a difference in studying in starting your study journey in study period 2 or semester 2 compared to studying in semester 1? What does that look like?
I mean, as with any of our program offerings here at UniSC, you know, the quality and the experience does not change. You engage in many of the same subjects as if you're completing and entering in our programs in first semester, and we provide the same high quality levels of support as we would as if you were walking in here in the summer. So summer, winter, online, on campus, Sunshine Coast, Moreton Bay, wherever you are, we'll be there and to support you and get you through that. And like I said, one of the things that sets us apart is that at the heart of our law programs is that sense of community. and building that sense of community. So you can expect that on-campus expectation for those days in that day in orientation week, or days, depending on how timetabling, who's really in control of this entire university decides. Of course, in same if you decided to engage just in criminology, and justice, you can engage in those studies and get that same support as if you were studying at the start of the semester. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, so just confirming, if I started in July and it's a 3-year program, I'll finish in 3 years in a July at the July intake. Same as if I studied in, I guess, February and I had a 3-year program, I'd finish before the end of that 3 years. It doesn't extend the course or anything like that. The program sequence slightly changes, but the university experience is the same.
Absolutely. And you'll end up being in subjects alongside your colleagues who started in the first semester anyway. It all flows together.
Perfect. I currently work in a law firm as paralegal while I'm in my final year of high school. It's a pretty cool job. Is there any credit that can be given for prior knowledge or recognition of prior knowledge?
That can happen. It is a winding road, I must say, in terms of how you go about recognizing that prior learning. And it can be a difficult one, particularly within accredited programs like this, it must be said. Um, but one of the ways that we've recognized before, for example, as I mentioned before, there's work integrated learning opportunities in that internship elective. We've had students who've worked in part-time and been able to get credit for that internship because they thought, okay, well, I'm doing this work anyway. I would like to use this as credit. And they've been able to provide some amazing references from their employers detailing their learning over years to be able to get that credit. So we certainly are open to those, to recognizing that prior learning, but there's a process that we have to go through centrally to be able to do that, if that makes sense. Sorry, Cody, if I didn't explain that very well.
Yeah, so I'll just jump at the back of that. I work in the credit space quite heavily, and if you've done a certificate for or a diploma, when you complete your application, once you gain entry and accepted your offer, you can tick the box for RPL, recognition of prior learning. Now, you do need an AQF level qualification if you're looking for a very black and white sort of setting in terms of applying for RPL. Sometimes there is credit available. Now, for the Criminal and Justice Studies program, there is a small amount of credit available for paralegal students if you are a qualified paralegal, as in you have a Cert 4 in criminal justice studies or you have a diploma in justice studies. And there's around 1 to 2 subjects, which saves you a little bit of money, but also saves you time. Regarding our new Bachelor of Laws, this is a brand new program. This is currently being explored, but it is assessed on a student basis. So you are needing that professional qualification, not just that work experience, and using that a part of your once you've been accepted, applying for credit afterwards and seeing what sort of opportunities you can gain out of that. As Dale mentioned, it is a very tight program. They obviously brought it from a 4-year to a 3-year program. Therefore, there is a little bit less flexibility when it comes to, I guess, credit opportunities, obviously, because it is a professional qualifying program. This is a great conversation, and Emma, you might notice this in your classes. Do many mature age students engage in law at UniSC? I'll throw that at both of you, but Emma, you're in the classroom every single day, and yes, Dale, I know you're teaching programs every single day. But Emma, how do you find, I guess, the student profile a part of your program?
It's very widespread and diverse. There's a lot of mature age students who have gone into the law program the same time as me or even after me. So it's not it's more 50-50 in the classrooms, I find, where it's high school graduates or it's people who are mature aged or have completely different degrees and want to join that up with law. So it's a lot more diverse than people would think.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's one of the strengths of our school, and also one of the great things about teaching, because one of the realities of law as well as criminology, when you're engaging with these big questions, it all of us have individual lenses which we bring with us to be able to understand life experiences, or passions, which allow us to be able to see and look at a situation differently, and being able to appreciate that in different people and understand the way which we all think differently is something that I guess helps us to be better lawyers all criminologists in terms of how we're seeing our world.
Yeah, a student I see actually quite often on the Sunshine Coast campus who does some media activities with our marketing team is Sue, and she's in her 50s and she's been a PT her whole entire life, and loves health and fitness, competed in bodybuilding shows and everything. Really great person. As soon as her kids moved out of home, she signed up for the Bachelor's of Law program, which was really cool. And she's a real advocate for that space. And it's just to show like such a diverse career profile and moving, and what I learned from that is like it's never too late. And it's so funny because I watch her and I go, oh, what are you doing for your semester break? And she's got a holiday plan for every single study break. Like, and or she does like an experience through the university in terms of her studies as well. So really great student of someone who lives life like quite energized and is on this like new chapter of learning and being engaged. It's really cool to see, and I really love catching up with her when I see her across the campus. A really great question is now talking about pathways. We've talked about TPP being a really great pathway. For example, if you didn't finish year 10 or don't have any previous qualifications, but you're an Australian citizen, that TPP, tertiary preparation pathway, is a fantastic program to upskill yourself as well as create the skills you need to go on to the Bachelor's of Laws. But we have some students, prospective students, actually asking, is there other diplomas, associate degrees available in the School of Law and Society that sets them up in terms of leveling up into the Bachelor's of Law? Dale, you might be the best person to answer this one.
Look, it's a very challenging one because our program isn't necessarily designed in that way.
Yep.
However, what I can say is that we have exit programs. So what that means is that if, say, for example, you join us in a Bachelor of Laws, you enroll in our 3-year program, but it comes to the end of your first year and you go, you know what, this isn't for me. You'll be able to leave with a less than bachelor level qualification. And that applies at the end of our first year as well as the end of our second year. So you've got those checkpoints where you've got that opportunity to take the door if this isn't for you. And I think that's so enriching for students because sometimes they'll start studying and they go, okay, well, this isn't for me, but then they often don't have much to show for want of a better word, because they don't have a qualification that they can openly show. Whereas we've built those moments into our exit pathways in that 3-year program. So it's a bit harder to level up per se, but it is more, we do provide much more support in those initial first years to be able to get you skilled up. And if this is something which you don't want to pursue, then you do have those, as I say, those exit qualifications.
That's really great advice. So obviously the opportunity was like, hey, a smaller commitment. But what you're saying is like, hey, you can actually commit to the whole thing. But if your circumstances change, you can still be rewarded for those bits of commitment that you've been able to achieve, which is
absolutely
a really great result, especially even using for employment circumstances when your life does change. I understand like university is not a short-term decision. I know Emma's studying for 5 years. So being able to walk away with an earlier qualification to use in the industry or to just have in your pocket a part of your resume is a really great, I guess, scope of skills you've been able to learn, but as well as to keep moving forward. We've got time for one more question. And there's still a lot here, so hopefully, as I said, we'll be able to get these, but we'll be able to answer these one-on-one at the end after we wrap up this Q&A. I really, I guess an important one here is, I've heard that law student graduates are currently in a surplus. Is this true? What does this look like? It's kind of a vague question, but Dale, you might be able to talk about, I guess, the scope of graduates in terms of employment and where they go on to.
Yeah, look, I kind of alluded to this earlier. Law is becoming more and more seen as a generalist degree. And that means that a law degree opens so many pathways, like so many doors. It's often really hard. It's hard for me, even at this stage, to say what the limitation of pathways is, certainly at the end of a 3-year degree. Because it's more than just being a solicitor these days. There are so many more opportunities to work in government, to be working as project officers, to be working as advocates in the non-profit sector to be working within policy, not just in government, but in politics. You know, we had multiple graduates who were running for parliament last federal election on the Sunshine Coast. So, you know, there's many opportunities. And I think that there are many things said all the time around the vast array of opportunities for law graduates, or this idea that there are too many graduates out there. And what I can say is that our local profession has always been crying out for high quality graduates. When I engage with the students in my classroom and I see that most of them have a part-time or casual work, you know, it's very clear to me how many firms are out there looking for that work as solicitors, and also how the government is also still, as I say, looking for that as something that's highly valued within our public and private sectors as well. So, you know, there's plenty of opportunities out there. I think that often I've always thought, oh goodness, there's an economic downturn that's going to hurt our graduates. That has never happened in law, because when a business goes bust, guess who comes in to clean it up? The lawyers. You know, and that same thing with during the pandemic, you would think there was a lack of lawyers. No, there were more lawyers hired. You know, regulation increases, even in challenging times, lawyers are required. So it's a very resilient profession in that way, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Dale. I'm going to sneak this one. This might be good for both of you guys. The Bachelor, the new Bachelor Law program doesn't have the honours attached to it. How can a student go on to study honours, and what does this look like? We've got 1 minute, so it's a quick response on that one.
Absolutely. Look, let me just tell you that we will have a standalone honours program, which will be rolled out in the years ahead. I think the first year, I don't want to give us ties down too much to this, but I think it will be in 2027. It will be a standalone 1 year degree. Emma's, of course, benefiting from continuing in our existing program where that honours is embedded. But don't you worry, watch this space. She is coming. If you enroll within our 3-year law degree, you will have that opportunity at your end.
So you go through the Bachelors of Laws and then you apply for your honours, and based on your grades, you can get into the law program.
Yes, to the law honours program. Yes, it'll be an add-on 1 year, so it'll end up being 4 years for that honours. But you know, that's in the pipeline. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, and that's quite common across a range of our scopes that exist across UniSC. From psychology, usually you do the 3-year undergrad, then you do the 1-year honours, and then you keep going from there if you really want to. So that makes complete sense how that fits. It's obviously you got to meet the requirements of the bachelor's, then move on to the honours based on your experiences and skills and obviously your grades to move into that program. So that makes complete sense. I just want to say thank you so much for Dr. Dale Mitchell for joining us this evening, as well as Emma, our fourth year law and criminology and justice student. That's a mouthful, that one. Thank you for joining us this evening and passing on all your experiences and advice. It's been greatly appreciated. And for a lot of these prospective students who might be coming onto orientation in July, I'm sure you'll see Emma. She's always working orientation, as well as Dale, who teaches a number of subjects across the program. So why UniSC? We're 5-star for student experiences. We're also #1 for teaching experiences as well. We have a modern, flexible approach to our learning environment. We have a major focus when it comes to employability, as well as learning from experts such as our program coordinator, Dr. Dale Mitchell. If you do have any further questions, we'll be sending you out an email tomorrow morning. We'll include a free QTAC voucher opportunity for you to register. It will also have an opportunity for you to book in with the study advisor if you want to learn a little bit more about your pathway and what that could look like. Alternatively, if you don't want to wait for booking in a consult, just call our Student Central team at 075430 2890. The details will also be in that email. You can call them. It's the exact same team who are there to help you along your study journey. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope to see you on campus for studying in July.